All right. So, if our fitness foundations, we covered the constant activity, changing positions all day, every day, for all the benefits we talked about. That's a great starting point. Now let's just talk a little bit about training each body part deliberately, 1 to 2 times per week. What we're looking for is short, deliberate, and intense functional movements, and this is using weights or resistance or body weight training. And ideally, it's a couple times a week. Now, that could be like a total body workout that you work every body part just 2 days a week. That would be really time efficient, or it could be a traditional split situation. And we'll cover some examples of what that looks like. So when we say body weight, I think that would be the best place to start when it comes to working on some of these functional movements. All right. And I'm just going to go through what I would consider to be the most important and beneficial functional body movements. And I'm sure we're all very familiar with these things, right? So the squat, the squat is so freaking foundational. It's not even funny. I mean, it's almost like you can't squat enough, especially if you're just doing body weight squats. Now, it does help to have someone make sure that you have good squatting form, which is something that we emphasize here at the gym that we work out. I'm so thankful for my squat. Like, I feel so solid in my squat. And I just use it all the time. Like I was just telling Kara, like any opportunity that I have to practice that from a functional perspective, if I'm grabbing something off the ground, or if I'm just getting out there throwing the frisbee and sitting in the bottom of the squat, like I'm so thankful that I understand how to do that. So learning how to do that properly is extremely beneficial. And I think most of us have probably heard this, but if you squat a lot, the rest of your body tries to catch up to it, because your legs and those muscle groups are so huge compared to everything else. So squat, super foundational, probably really beneficial to get someone to make sure that you're doing it right. I would say pushing movements, ideally you'd want to get to the point where you could do a push up from a body weight perspective. But if you're not there, then you've got all kinds of different modifications that you can do. You can do an elevated push up. You can do a wall push up. You can do a push up from a desk or a bench or a box or something like that to get you to the point to where you can do a body weight push up. You can do push ups from the knees. Those are totally cool too. But some kind of a pushing movement. And I do just want to say, when we push, think about, like, if I wanted you to come help me push a car or something, we're not flaring our elbows out like the bodybuilders do, trying to do those bench presses, right? We've got our elbows kind of tucked in, and we're thinking from a functional perspective, this is how I would push in a normal situation. That's exactly how we do our push-ups. And again, there's all kinds of different variations that you can use for push-ups. Now, for pulling, ideally, you'd want to get to where you could do a pull-up and pull yourself up on top of an object or something like that. That's super practical. But to get there, like, we've got all kinds of different things that we can do. We've got bent over rows that we can do with dumbbells or barbells or a milk jug or a backpack or something like that. We've got the bands. A lot of people have those home bands that you can anchor to a door stop or something along those lines, and do some pulls with some bands. You can even do just air pulls. A lot of times I'll be out in the middle of the street throwing the frisbee, and I'm just bent over, just doing some squeezes here, and I got really good mind muscle connection. But eventually we would want to get to the point to where we can do a pull up, and then sitting up from the ground all the way up to an upright position. A lot of different variations there. You got straight leg sit ups, you got open leg sit ups. We call them butterfly sit ups. But again, very practical, because basically you're just getting up off the ground. And then plank holds, extremely powerful. And there's all kinds of different variations of plank holds that we have. We have the elbows, we have them on the hands, we have side planks. And this is really great for building some core strength. All right, so starting out, I think just focusing on trying to master these movements would be a great idea. And then we could move into learning how to lift some things, right? So the main lifts that we'd want to, again, from a functional perspective, that's also going to help us build the body that we want, would be a deadlift. Now, a deadlift is basically learning how to lift a dead weight off the ground. That's why they call it a deadlift, right? There's a proper way of doing that. Also a back squat, or you could even think, maybe I should word this like weighted squat, right? Because the squat could be something where you're holding some weight in front of you, which would be like a front squat or a front rack position. Weight on your back, which would be called a back squat, but something where you're adding some resistance to the squat. And then we've got overhead presses. Okay, again, very functional. You can use barbell, you can use dumbbell. Maybe starting out, you're not using any weight at all because you're trying to work on your overhead position. But ideally, you'd want to get to the point where you can press some weight overhead. And then so thankful that this gym focuses so much on these carries, carrying weight. All right. So again, like think about carrying bags of groceries. Like I'm so proud that I can carry all my groceries in two hands. I don't use plastic bags anymore, but back when I did, I was so, I could just load up my hands with groceries, or I could do two milk jugs in one hand. I remember when I got to the point when I was younger and I could do two milk jugs in one hand holding the handles. But anyway, super functional, right? Carrying weight, and you can do this in varying ways. You can do weights in two hands. You can do weight in one hand, which gives you some real balance and proprioception. You can do overhead carries. There's a lot of different ways that we can do it. And again, we do a lot of carries here at this gym, and it's just great. I know that this gym is so tapped into the latest and greatest because every time we have something introduced here, then I hear it in the ancestral and holistic functional realms. It's almost like it's all being echoed in the same places. So that's some recommendations on the different movements that we want to perfect. Now, within each one of these, we've got different variations and modifications that we can use to kind of make things a little bit interesting and increase our functionality. And I'll cover some examples of that here in just a moment.